Hi, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon. On behalf of all of us at Texas Oncology Foundation, thank you for joining. With the COVID-19 officially declared a pandemic, our daily routines have been completely affected. Every aspect of our lives, from the social and physical to the emotional and economic, are being impacted. Cancer patients and their loved ones know all too well about adapting, and our goal during this unprecedented global challenge is to continue to provide the skills and resources necessary to maintain healthy survivorship. I'm going to turn this over to Kelly Condon. She is our program coordinator, and she's going to talk to you and give you some housekeeping tips and introduce our speaker for today.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Just want to go through, like Natalie said, just a few housekeeping announcements to help you in case you have any issues throughout this presentation. If you're experiencing any issues with your windows disappearing or your slides don't seem to be advancing, we have found that the best thing for you to do is to simply close and reopen the webinar window. This will typically fix that for you. If you are experiencing problems with your audio, the best solution is to call into this webinar and listen over the phone. If you are on your computer, there's an audio section on your control panel. Select phone call, and then this will give you the number to access. This number is also on your registration email that you received after signing up. Throughout this presentation, our speaker is going to have a few poll questions for you, and so when you see a poll question pop up on your screen, you just select your answer, and then this will give us the results. So we're going to practice this, and we just want to know, who do we have on this call with us today? Are you a survivor, a caregiver, healthcare professional, or maybe you're another? So let us know. Awesome. It looks like we have mostly survivors on this call with us today, so thank you all for being here, and we also have some healthcare providers as well. There is a handout. Again, this is located on your control panel. Our presenter, Tamika Felder, has just given you a little extra resource that you can take with you. If you go to that handout section on your control panel, you can click on the file, open it, save it to your desktop. And if you have issues with this, please feel free to email our foundation, and we can help you with that as well. There is also on your control panel a questions tab. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time during this webinar. All you have to do is type your question into the box, and then we will be able to see it. We are not going to answer questions immediately as they're coming in. We're going to take some time at the very end of Tamika's presentation to do some Q&A. So please send them in to us. We want to hear from you. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded, and the online archive will be available for viewing after this live session. The recording will also be sent to everyone who registered in a follow-up email, and then it's also going to be available on our Texas Oncology Foundation website. We are very excited to have Tamika Felder with us today. She is not only a dear friend of our foundation's, but she has been a frequent speaker at our Survive and Thrive Symposium, so I'm sure many of you have heard from her before. She is a 19-year cervical cancer survivor, and she is an award-winning producer and host, international speaker, author, and she is also a patient advocate. So basically, what can this woman not do? But Tamika, we are so excited to have you with us today. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. And I know for me, and I'm sure everyone else who hears you speak, you are just a constant source of just encouragement for everyone. And so thanks again for taking the time with us.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm always just happy to be with my Survive and Thrive community. Thank you, Natalie. It's just a great opportunity to be here because we're all, in this together. And I really do mean that. I've heard from lots of people in the oncology community lately, and we're all going through it. If we didn't feel it initially, now that this is coming in a secondary new normal for us, we're definitely coming to terms with this is our life right now. And so I just want to share that we are a community, that we're resilient, and that I have a few tips that I hope will help ease you through this process that we're all navigating and learning together. And so, as Kelly just mentioned, for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm a cancer survivor, patient advocate, nonprofit founder, and I am a 19-year cancer survivor. But here's the truth for you. Here's the reality of things. I have fears just like many of you. If I get sick, will this be worse because I'm a cancer survivor? And, that means not only addressing the fears and the concerns that I have, but also managing those realities of how I live my day-to-day life to protect me, not only from COVID-19, but any of the other things, those of us with immunity issues that we need to protect ourselves from. So my story, for those who don't know, I was diagnosed at 25 with cervical cancer. I had a radical hysterectomy. It changed my life. I'm in that survivorship mode, that, post-cancer, living my life beyond cancer. But those of us who are there, we know that it can be very fearful for us, that we may not live that way every day, but we wonder, like, am I compromising my immunity because of X, Y, and Z? I love this quote from Dr. Heather Palmer out of Florida. Cancer is a gift wrapped in barbed wire. One, because it's not necessarily a gift, but if it was a gift, it would definitely be the kind of gift that's wrapped in barbed wire, the one that we don't want, but we get, and we have to learn how to navigate to get to the gift through the barbed wire, and it can sometimes be extremely difficult. So cancer and COVID-19. So we got diagnosed with cancer and we survived cancer. And now all of a sudden, COVID-19, I don't know about any of you, but this is really how I felt, when I was like, are you kidding me? Seriously? Now this? Come on. And some other things that I won't say on this webinar, but the me emoji says it all, literally what I was thinking. It's just one added layer of so much that we're already dealing with. And so what do we do with that? And we have a poll question here. And so, are you feeling stressed? Are you feeling anxious, overwhelmed? I want you to know that that's normal. It's okay to not be okay in the face of a global pandemic. So let's take this poll. So we have 13% stressed, 19% anxious, 6% overwhelmed, 63% all of the above. And at different points during this, however long that it may last, you may end up in another category. You may not be, overwhelmed, but you may be anxious, or you might not be stressed, or you may be a part of it all. But it's learning how to deal with these feelings and seeking help. One of my favorite quotes that have come out by this is someone named Cleo Wade, and it was just a friendly reminder. And I saw this on Instagram, and this is what it said: just a friendly reminder. There is no right way to feel right now. And I think that's really important, that we share these things and that we let people know it's okay that you're not okay. You don't have to be holding it all together. Our lives have been completely changed. For some, we are, navigating another new normal. We have the new normal that comes along with cancer. Now it's the new normal of, homeschooling. It's the new normal of not being able to see your doctor when you want to. Maybe you have to push a life-saving cancer procedure or treatment, on pause right now because it's too much for you to go inside a hospital. So you're too stressed because you're wondering, is my cancer growing? And that's a very real thing that is happening in the cancer community right now. I have a fellow cancer survivor who works for UPS, and she's currently fearful because she's a survivor and she knows that her immune system is compromised. So while she's working, she's doing all the things that she needs to do, washing her hands, social distancing as much as possible while at work. But the truth is, she's still very fearful that if she catches this virus, her body might not allow her to shake it off. And that is that overwhelming, anxious, stressed feeling that we're talking about. And those feelings are absolutely normal. I'm not feeling like myself. You know, I, like all of us, and I have major sensory overload. My brain cannot seem to focus on anything for very long. Someone sent that to me, via email, and I felt it too because I was feeling that way the previous week. Here, where I live in Maryland, there was a lot of rain. It was very gray, and I was like, why am I so sleepy? Why am I constantly sleeping? I'm actually going to bed earlier. I'm getting more sleep, but I can't seem to shake whatever this is. Well, that is the gloom, right? That is the blah of all of this that is happening right now. So how do you get past that? You have to shake it off. You have to shake that blah off and do whatever you need to do. Are you getting enough vitamin D? Are you going out? Maybe you don't want to go out, but we absolutely need to get fresh air. So for those who may be too fearful to take a walk, or you're in a place where you don't feel safe enough to do it, go stand in front of your building, go stand on your porch, stand on your balcony, get some fresh air. It's very important that we do some of those normal things that help get us back to where we've been. Here's the thing that I want to remind you of. As cancer survivors, we're used to being quarantined. This is where we actually thrive in this situation. But what happens when isolation and loneliness set in? That's a whole different matter. So I want to make sure that during this time, if you journal, start writing down. If you've been to Survive and Thrive symposiums, I know the Texas Oncology Foundation gave out wonderful journals. You can, if you don't have a journal, write in the notes in your phone. You can just sheets of paper. I have Post-it notes everywhere. Now is the time that if you want to start journaling and you haven't been before, start putting those feelings out there. Don't fight what you feel. Give yourself space to grieve what you lost. So another thing that came out of this, I've been talking to a lot of cancer survivors, and one shared with me what they had learned. And what it was that staying positive doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. It means that even on hard days, that better ones are coming. So right now may be a very hard day. It may even be a hard week. But what happens is we know that there's the potential of better days coming on the other side. But honor your feelings. Don't fight what you feel. Give yourself space to grieve what you've lost, because we've lost a lot. We've lost to cancer, and now we're losing to COVID-19. It's important that we seek and ask for support. You don't have to do this alone. One of the ways that you've shown up is by attending this webinar. I love that this is a whole series that the foundation is doing, because it's going to take more than one webinar for us to truly get through this, and again together. So while we may not be able to come together in person, we're able to come together in a virtual way. And this is, one of those steps of seeking and asking for support. And you have to continue to do it. Someone that may be feeling the same way, share this webinar with them as well. When everything sucks, right? Because it's sucky right now, where's the gratitude? Gratitude can help put things in perspective. So for me, when I feel myself in that mode of gloom and things are sucking, I think, what can I be grateful for? So when I wake up in the morning, I try to give gratitude. I give thanks, prayer. Find whatever your thing is and try to give gratitude. And so if you've attended any of my talks before, I talk a lot about when you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth, because that's usually the first thing a lot of us do. What are you telling yourself? when you wake up in the morning? When you're looking in the mirror or when you're just standing there brushing your teeth, what are the messages that you're telling yourself? So I've stepped up that messaging. When I wake up, thank you. I woke up this morning. I have so much gratitude for waking up today. Things may not be perfect. I may not be able to go about my everyday routine as I want. I just can't get up and go to the grocery store. I just can't get up and go. You have to plan more. Am I masked up? Do I have a mask on? How am I protecting myself? Do I have hand sanitizer? I can't find hand sanitizer. I can't find Clorox wipes. These are all very real concerns. But every single day, find one thing to give gratitude for. It could be, thank you for this meal that I have. It could be, thank you that I have a home. It could be, thank you for allowing me to get up and be a part of this webinar so that I can gain a few tips to help me through this or to help my patients get through this. But I really would challenge you to find something to give gratitude for each and every single day. The hamster wheel. Here's something that, feels good for me. And I know for a lot of people that I talk to, we know that people have died to this virus. We know that people have been sick. It's touched me personally in several ways, and it is horrific. But here's one positive for a lot of people. It gave us a chance to get off the hamster wheel of life. It gave us a break, right? So we're acknowledging that a lot of people are sick, that this has caused a lot of pain globally. But in looking for the gratitude, there's a little bit of gratitude that some of us have a much needed break, whether it's mentally, physically, whatever it is, that we were able to get off the hamster wheel of life. And this is just a very small example for you to find ways to find gratitude. So we have another poll question here. And this poll question is centered around grief and loss. During this time, we're experiencing grief. We're experiencing the loss of freedom. We're experiencing the loss of income. We're experiencing the loss of connectivity. And if there are any other things that you're experiencing loss, I would just love for you to just post it in the chat. And when we get to the Q&A, we'll look at it. But feel free to, if you've already taken the poll, to share in the chat what other types of loss and grief you're currently experiencing. And, the poll closed and we're at 79% of people said, yes, I'm experiencing grief and loss. 16% said no. 5% said, I'm not sure. And these are all right answers. There's no wrong answers because we're all navigating through this. This is Becky Wallace. Becky Wallace, a survivor who's currently in treatment. Her cancer returned. And so it's hard to see, but I'll read you a portion of her message. See that bulge protruding from my chest? That's my port, my lifeline to the poison that gets pumped into my body every 3 weeks. I have already had to be semi-quarantined since November. She writes about not being able to step foot in her daughter's classes, that she has to be cautious when she's in an area with lots of people. She has to make sure she's not around friends and family when they have a cold, and the list goes on. Now throw COVID-19 into the mix, and the stakes are even higher for people like me. And so sometimes we need to share our experiences so that other people will know, let's protect everyone else. Because we know that cancer doesn't stop, even in the wake of a global pandemic. So as we're still navigating and going through this, we have to deal with the global pandemic of the world and the very real of what cancer brings into our lives as well. This is Mary. She's not actively in treatment. She's dealing with secondary issues like lymphedema and very other things, not being able to work right now. But as she was feeling overwhelmed, one of the things she decided to do I'm going to make masks. That's what I can do right now to help other people. And so find those things of compassion. I encourage people to give compassion to themselves because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, but also have compassion for other people because we're all navigating through this. So, what ways are you able to show compassion for yourself and for other people? And so maybe you can't donate funds right now, but maybe you can call and check on someone. Maybe you can make masks or make hand sanitizer or do whatever. Another example is a cancer survivor who she didn't have a lot, but she realized, now that she's home, she's organizing all the things in her house. She had a lot of hand sanitizer bottles from various conferences that she had gone to. And so what she did, she put them in a Ziploc baggie with a little note, put them in her Post-it note, and she gave them away to postal carrier workers. And that was her way of doing something during that, because it feels good to help in some part, because each of the small things that we do add up to the bigger process of helping us all overcome this. As a cancer community, we are resilient. A lot of times we forget that, right? We forget that because cancer comes in, it not only weakens the mind, it weakens the body, it also weakens the mind. So we have to remember that we're resilient. We've been through this. We're going through this. This is not our first rodeo with being quarantined. It sucks. It really does. But we know what to do in the most case to make it through this, right? So my reminder to you is that you are resilient. Here's another cancer survivor. I spent March 7th through April 22nd, basically quarantined in my apartment after surgery for cancer. Here I go again in 2020. Who would have thought? And that's real. I'm sure a lot of people on this webinar today can relate to that. I talked about what do we do when, we are waking up in the morning. We have people who are dealing with, the financial burden, whether it's loss of work, your cancer diagnosis. Maybe you're already out of work because of your cancer diagnosis, and that put a financial burden on you. Now you don't know when you'll be able to go back to work. So there are all these things going on. So this is during a time when we really, really need to think of mindfulness. There's some people that having a routine works for them. Others, it doesn't. My biggest thing is that, people are deprived right now of sleep. There are lots of reports out there. Try to sleep. We'll get into some of those tips later. But I want you to practice mindfulness. I want you to think about when you can do it. I gave you an example of brushing your teeth. A wonderful clinical psychologist, Dr. Ramani Durvasola, she talks about mindfulness while washing your hands. In a lot of ways, life has slowed down and given us those mindful moments. And you have to remember that your past looks nothing like our present. I love that so much. Your past looks nothing like our present. So when you go to wash your hands, it could be a wonderful time for a mindfulness ritual. And so what she says is that, we all have to wash our hands, and they're saying 20 seconds. I'm saying 40 seconds for cancer survivors especially. But I think everyone should do 40 seconds, just add a little bit more into it. So what Dr. Ramani says is while you're washing your hands, really slow down. Think about, let the water warm up. Put the soap on your hands. Start rubbing the soap in your hands. If it's a scented lotion, bring it up to your nose and your mouth and breathe it in. Maybe if it's not, put a few drops of essential oil in it if you have any of that around your house, because we're not encouraging you to leave, or if you want to order something. If you have a candle, light your candle. I literally have been lighting a candle every time I go to the bathroom, even if it's on just for that short period of time that I'm in there, because that's a way for me to practice a mindful moment. And so what happens is that during that time, you take your mind to someplace. Maybe it's the last vacation you were on. Perhaps it's a vacation that you want to go to. Maybe it's a happy time that you had with family members or friends that you're not able to be with right now. It's a time for you to stay focused on today and self-compassion, to give yourself grace, and don't set unrealistic expectations on yourself. And so that's a really good place for you to be, because cancer is a trauma. And now we have the trauma of COVID-19. And so we have to have boundaries for grief. Everyone feels it a different way, right? Focus on today, not tomorrow, not yesterday. Just focus on today. Just like cancer, when we look back, what will be our bounce back message? How did we survive this? It's another layer of survival, things that we have to survive. We all need compassion, but how are you being compassionate to yourself? We have to remember that we're not stopping, we're pausing, we're planting seeds, we're getting ready for harvest. I talk about this in my book a lot, that, during times like this, this is how we nurture ourselves to what we're growing into next, and it's a part of our survival. I have a lot of resources to kind of help you foster, resilience during this time, how to work with grief. People are feeling so lonely, so isolated, even if you are doing things like utilizing Zoom, Google Hangout, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, House Party, Netflix Watch app. There's so many things. There are moments though when you feel alone, because we have a loss of normalcy. So I encourage you to do things intentionally to connect, make the distinction between loneliness and isolation, make virtual dates. I have a friend whose husband passed away, and she has a child, but her child is in the basement all the time, playing games with his friends virtually, and she feels lonely, and that's normal. And so speak up and say that, right? Where are you placing your emotional and mental energy? That is important right now too. If so much of the news that's coming through is overwhelming you, cut back. I understand you need to stay informed. You all do too. On the weekends, I shorten my time on social media and watching news. It's when I catch up on TV shows that I like and other things. Right now is a great time. If there's a book that you haven't had time to read and you want to read it, try to do that. It's just really, really, really important for you to find those things that, can help you. One of the handouts, I think Kelly showed you all how to get to the handout, but I just want to give you a quick look if you haven't had a chance to open it up yet. These are my short tips. What can increase, this time of isolation can increase anxiety and sleep deprivation. So here are my tips for you during this time. Physically distance yourself, but socially connect. I know a lot of places are using social distance. I don't want you to socially distance, because I think of that, and a lot of people, as I have to be isolated in my little bubble, just myself, me, myself, and I. We're physically distancing ourselves, but we're socially connecting, whether it's via, Zoom calls, Google Hangout, whatever platform that you use. You still need connectivity. So find those ways to connect virtually. If you need to leave your home, protect yourself and others you may encounter. I shared, Becky, who's actively in treatment, her life depends on it. Frequently and diligently wash your hands. I put in using the 20-second rule, because that's what we're saying. I say increase it to 40, and think about using this time as a mindfulness time. Stay informed, but limit yourself from overwhelming news feeds. Be diligent in knowing what is credible and what isn't. Stay hydrated. Move your body, aka stretch. We're doing a lot of Zoom calls. We're sitting. We're doing. My day-to-day was walking, going through a lot of airports. Also, when I'm hosting events and speaking, I'm moving around, talking when I'm on stage. And I just realized I'm more stiff than usual. It's like because I'm sitting longer. So I'm being very intentional about stretching not only in the morning, but midday and before I go to bed. Things that I should have already been doing, but I'm being very mindful. And maybe this will help me keep it up when we're all past this. Get some vitamin D, even if you're just standing outside your residence. Enjoy your quarantine snacks, but not too much. I used to tell people, and I really thought this was true, like I cannot get a handle on my food because I'm traveling so much for work. And quarantine has proven that that is a lie. So, I listed this, but it's also something for me that I need to watch this quarantine snacks because they can get out of control because we're looking for things that can last, right? So we can limit our trips to the grocery store. So that means sometimes buying things that are prepackaged or have a longer shelf life, but we still need to be finding ways to get in fresh fruits and vegetables. Maybe it's frozen or whatever. I know I miss my avocados, but someone just told me a helpful tip that you can actually put them in the freezer. So I'm actually trying that out this week. And if you have things that work for you, definitely, share tips because they help this community. During this time, we have cancer appointments, but we also have regular visits, whether it's a mammogram, whether it's, whatever test, maybe it's just your yearly visit. This is the time to contact your doctor and ask for contingency plans for any upcoming visits or treatments. And also reach out if your emotions get the best of you. You are not alone, and there's no shame in it. We're all going through it. So please know that it is absolutely okay to reach out for support. Also, if you know someone struggling on the financial end of things, the cancer.net compiled a wonderful list, this PDF you can actually click on where it says this list and it'll take you to that website. They have done an outstanding job, not only with giving tips for emotional support, but also financial support as well. These are just a few of my, tips and reminders to keep you healthy and safe during this time. And as always, remember, you are a survivor. We are resilient as a community. We are stronger together, even virtually. And I hope this is helpful for you. I want you to also think that things may be different, but we're still here. And I put this word joyful here. And that's the reason to be joyful. And I thought about it, like maybe some people will think it's so insensitive during this time to use the word joyful. But what I really thought about that was no, even during this time as cancer survivors, we need to celebrate the small things. We need to have gratitude and we need to find those small bits of joy throughout the day. And so I'd love to know right now, at this point, how you are feeling. Are you still feeling overwhelmed? Are you still feeling stressed? We have another poll question right now. Are you less anxious, the same, indifferent? And again, there are no right or wrong answers at all. And we're split right down the middle almost. Less anxious, 47%, 47% the same, 5% indifferent, right? And, we'll get there. We will absolutely get there. As always, you can reach out to me. I have a lot of emails that I need to catch up on, but reach out to me. Let me know if you get stuck. Let me know if there is a place where you just need a little push, where you just need a little reminder. And again, this is a community, so it's important for you to stay engaged with the community, participate in things like this webinar, and I am looking forward to us being able to connect together again. I wanted to leave this time for questions. And so if you would like to start with any questions, please post them in the chat. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Tamika.
Hello.
First of all, thank you for just sharing. I've been jotting down a few questions while you've been talking, and so I can kind of start our conversation. And then I just encourage everyone who is attending, please utilize that questions tab. Send us your comments. Send us your questions. I know Tamika was also, wanting to have a conversation about, that sense of loss. So send in what you're walking through right now, and we'll just spend a few minutes discussing. And I see some of you are already doing it, so thank you. Tamika, one thing that came to my head when you were talking and that I would love just to have you expand on was you were giving some ways that, external ways that we can kind of start processing everything, what we're feeling, and journaling was one of them. Are there any prompts that you have been utilizing during this time to kind of get your, thoughts flowing?
Yeah, so when I wake up and I give gratitude, if I'm feeling anxious, I also ask, why am I feeling overwhelmed? Why am I feeling anxious? What is it right now that's on my mind? And it's been really helpful to, look back if it's a week later or whatever, like what was going on during that time? Was it financial woes? Was it that my husband's still working every single day? Is it that my stepdaughter, she's a senior, so she's feeling the loss and the emotions of all that stuff right now. So journaling has been very helpful for me. And again, there's science that shows that actually writing it out, because I'm definitely old school. I do a lot of handwritten things, but it's okay to do it in your notes in whatever mobile device that you're using or your computer. But just getting it out really does help. But I would ask questions like the prompts here, what are you feeling overwhelmed about? What would make you feel less overwhelmed? What am I grateful for? Is there anything joyful about today? Is there a goal that you want to achieve during this time of quarantine where you have a little bit more time? Some of us don't, because, there are people who are working harder than they've ever been. But some of us have extra time. Is this a time where you could, get a certification in something that you wanted to do? There's so many free online classes right now. One of the things as a home cook and baker, I've always wanted to get better with my knife skills. So I'm taking one of those free classes, chopping onions, trying to get the technique right. I realize that I need another knife, but right now I'm just working with what I have. And so those are things that if you need to keep your mind busy or take your mind off of this, those are just examples of what you could do. I did a challenge to myself on the same line of cooking. Let me see if I could do my home edition of the show Chopped, only making meals out of what I have at home. And it's been interesting, but kind of fun, right? But that also helps keep me away from the grocery store, because I'm not only keeping myself safe, I'm keeping the grocery store workers safe, or the potential people that I may come in contact with.
Absolutely, yeah. And you basically touched on this, but I also really loved how you reminded us to honor our feelings. And I think it's so appropriate just to say, like, no, today is not the best day, and to be honest about that, because if you're not willing to do that, then I think it's harder to get to the root of it, like you were saying. And so,
one day I woke up and I literally was crying, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Oh, I'm sad. It's gray. And, all the traveling, all the events that I was supposed to be doing, have been taken away from me, and I won't get to connect and see people. And I thrive off of that. I love connecting with my cancer community, right? And so I was like, I'm really sad, and that's okay, right? You have to honor those feelings. I'm a naturally happy person, but it doesn't mean that I don't have those same feelings of loss and grief. There are times when I feel like, well, it's not that bad for me. I shouldn't be sad, but we all are going through it. It's different levels, but we're all experiencing some type of loss.
Absolutely. And to that point, a few people have chimed in and shared, and one shared, one thing that's been hard is the loss of friends who have died during this time and not being able to physically come together to honor and comfort each other. And she said, I have taken time out of each day to think deeply about these people and the impact on my life that they've had, and to give myself space to be sad and angry about this loss. I've also extended phone calls to those who are grieving. So that's just one person's.
I love that so much. As you know, Kelly, I lost someone incredibly close to me in the cancer community March 13th, when this really started, right, for most of us in the US. And it was horrific that we have not been able to in person celebrate her life, but we've been doing it virtually when we can. I also lost someone who was like a second mother to me. And it's been incredibly hard, but that is absolutely right, that we have to reach out. We have to comfort other people, comfort ourselves, but it's also okay to be angry that this is happening and we aren't even, when we have a funeral or a celebration of life, that is one of the things that it doesn't take away the pain of losing someone, but it's one of those things that help us cope with it. And right now we're not even able to do that. So it's hard. It's so hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely identify with you and this attendee, because just the freedom of my grandmother was put on hospice a few weeks ago. And so the freedom to actually go see her in person has been taken. And so, I completely identify with that physical barrier that we are all having to deal with right now. So I appreciate this individual sharing and just being open about that. And then a few people are saying we don't have questions, but thank you for doing this. Thank you for your words specifically, and that they already feel much better. So,
all the air hugs to everybody out there.
Lots of thank yous are coming in. And then kind of lastly, I think there's a lot of questions coming in about getting active, and so I also kind of wanted to throw this tidbit out there, but stay following our foundation, because some of the pre-recorded webinars we had are going to be really great for that getting active, and also the mindfulness. We had Dr. Zuniga do some meditations with us that we'll be releasing, and then also we had Simone Barnes do a laughter yoga session that we will be sharing, so those are great. And then another attendee also mentioned that YMCA360.org is free right now, so if you're looking for just something to kind of put in your mix, that's another option.
There's so many pages if you're on social media, and I guess you could go to their website too, like Planet Fitness. They have been killing it in a good way with all of these. They had Jerry from, I can't remember what that Netflix show, it's out of Texas. the cheerleading one.
Oh, Cheer.
Yes, Cheer. But he led exercise routine, and it was so fun. And even for me, I'm limited, right, with what I could do, but I've been finding just time to do it. And you get to try things, if Zumba's not your thing, they've got, some other just dance or whatever, but there's so many things readily available for us at no cost. So I would definitely try those things out right now. And I express gratitude for companies who are willing to share those things with all of us at no charge.
Absolutely.
Because we definitely need it.
Another question came in, and I think they're just looking for some tips, but how do you deal with nervous doctors who don't have time to talk right now? Do you have any tips for communicating?
Yes, this is where we have to have compassion for our healthcare, because healthcare workers are so overworked, so stressed right now, and my heart goes out to all of them. So we have to be able to show them some compassion. If you're reaching out to them and they're not able to speak, if you're reaching directly to the doctor, maybe the nurse practitioner, maybe, the front office person. Ask if there's someone else that you can speak to. And it's really hard because it's important to us. Our health is important. With cancer, a lot of things are timed. So I would, if you're not hearing anything, reach back out, but also really show compassion, because we have people like, there's someone that I know that is a former nurse working in another field, but she's volunteering her time going back because it's so needed right now. There's a shortage of nurses. There are a shortage of healthcare workers, and we just really need to show them some compassion and grace. And I would seek out information from someone else in the office who may be able to help you, and think about the types of questions that you're answering right now. Because I'm not saying do not contact them, but definitely, if you're not getting a response right now, it's because everyone's so overwhelmed. And we have to think, a lot of times we forget, those healthcare workers, they have families of their own. And so this is also emotionally a hard time for them. It's stressful. They are not prepared in ways to deal with things. And I think that, every aspect of life is just being pulled in different ways and overwhelmed right now.
Yes, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those were all of the questions that I saw coming in. Again, so many thank yous are coming in. Thanking you for this inspiring and uplifting session. And they said it's just been a welcome break to the sheltering in place. So
thank you, guys. It's my pleasure. I feed off of this energy too, right? I've been missing my community, my people. And so this is a great way for me to stay connected. And like I said, until we're together again for another Survive and Thrive Symposium, it's my favorite event, right? So this is what we'll be doing. And I'm so thankful to the foundation, Natalie and Kelly, for making this available for all of us, because I get something out of it too. Now I'll go back and I'll think about the questions, the comments that you gave, and what we can do, and continue sharing that to other groups and organizations, because again, we are a community. We're all together and we're resilient. Thank you so much for allowing me to share with you all today. Stay safe and healthy.
Absolutely. I just echo Tamika. Thank you again, Tamika, for your time. Thank you for everyone who participated with us this afternoon. I just want to remind you that this session was recorded and it's going to be emailed to everyone who registered, so you will get a copy. And then it's also going to be available on our TexasOncologyFoundation.org website. If you can go to the Programs tab along the top, and then you'll see Survive and Thrive Webinar Archive on the left. And we just encourage you to continue to stay connected with our foundation, like us on Facebook, visit our website. We're going to continue to put out some resources as well as additional webinar presentations during this time. So yeah, thank you all so much and have a great afternoon.